All right, guys, Monday. It's after 5 o'clock. It's dark outside. I feel like we've started every single podcast the last couple of weeks the exact same way. And Virginia Tech fell to Duke 31-28 in Durham in shockingly embarrassing fashion yet again. And in almost like the most poetic, like you couldn't write the movie to be this way. One of the funniest things that I woke up to the next morning, or some folks who got back from the game and checked their mailbox, was everybody received their investment guides in the mailbox, whether it be on Friday or Saturday, before this football game, which just added so much insult to so much injury. But we are the Sons of Saturday. Both of us are usually in Charlotte, but we are gobbling our way back home for Thanksgiving to see the families. I'm in DC, and Pat will be in New Jersey. Pat, how are you doing, my friend?
I am good. I think I got a call from the ticket office today and an email about renewing my season tickets. It's just a tough time at a tough place. I am good. We had a fantastic celebration over the weekend. A lot of fun. Saw a lot of family, a lot of friends. Did turn 30 yesterday. And no gift from the Hokies this year, at least in football form. I was gifted a nice Elite Eight berth from the women's soccer team and a nice triple-double from Rose. So, the girls have got it going on. The guys, we need to figure it out. But, we had a good time. The controllables were controlled. The uncontrollables were not controlled. And what we could control, we had a great weekend. So, I don't know where else. What else I can add there?
Yeah, I think here's the plan for this show, just to kind of set the table. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about some of the things that went wrong. But I think the common theme is we're here on November 25th, and so many of our games have felt like a rinse and repeat of the same thing. And I spoke to a lot of people yesterday, old, young, friends, people I haven't talked to in a long time, on my drive from Raleigh to DC. And, the kind sentiment is, and not to be hyperbolic here, it just the feeling and the temperature and the dialogue and the like looking through the binoculars of the future right now is feeling very bleak. And that's what we need to talk about. So we'll get into it.
I know how those calls go. Billy Ray, he's on the ride home from the game. This happens every Sunday. A call is like list of like 15 people, and it's the same conversation every time. He's like, dude, it's over. It's so over. We did this on the way home from Clemson, and that's how it went. But it's an enjoyable bit.
Yeah, Jay hates it, but it's.
I'm sure
it's every time.
Billy, you brought me to another Hokie loss. She's like, you're in so much debt, so much relationship debt right now. Billy, please bring me to a win.
I know. Our Hokie haikus, we got 4 of them. I'll read the first 2. Pete McGee, who I did get to see at the game, it was great. Love you, Pete.
The man.
He says, "Men of Merriman make me an unmerry man." Group of 5 program. Chuck Wingfield, shout out. These are back-to-back Section 5 members. Preseason hype gone. All we have left is Who game. Commonwealth Cup stays. And Pat, you want to take the last 2?
Hokie Flyer says, Hokie fans show out. Can Coach Pry take us higher? Dreams crash, hopes expire. Wow. It's kind of like a John Cran poem right there. Hokie fan Falls Church says, a season's mournful end. That's 6 syllables. A single victory, our solace, defeat UVA's clan. I love all the haikus, guys.
Where did we watch? Where did we tailgate? Pat, I'll let you paint the picture, man. I'll be completely honest with you. I showed up to this football game fully anticipating losing this game. So that was baked in. Like the loss was baked in to the pie that was consumed on Saturday. And with that being the case, it was a 10 out of 10 weekend. Absolutely no notes. Fantastic. I'll let you do a quick recap here.
We did have we stayed at this Airbnb in Raleigh. So we wanted to get the Raleigh experience and the Durham experience all in one. Had some friends and family come in. Stayed in the historic Oakwood neighborhood in Raleigh in this like 1870s McMansion Airbnb. It was purple. The house was purple. Had an NC State flag hanging out front. We're like, all right, this is where we're setting up shop for the weekend. And it was incredible. Oakwood Cemetery, by the way, we did check out the cemetery on Sunday. I don't know if you guys took a walk down there, Billy, right? But historic cemetery in the lore of Raleigh, North Carolina. Had a really fun kind of home tailgate. Billy was calling it a backyard gate or a back gate since it was in the backyard. Jumped on a little party bus down to Tobacco Road out in the outfield of the Durham Bulls Stadium. They have an epic restaurant called Tobacco Road, and parents had a setup there with some fajitas. It was fajitas, right? It was awesome. Fajitas.
I'll tell you, I was pretty drunk at dinner. If I knew that we were in the outfield of where the Durham Bulls played, because I talked about that movie like 10 times. I'd never been to Raleigh. So if I knew that, I'd have probably done some more sightseeing. But
the Durham Bulls play in Durham, not Raleigh. But yeah, that was a miss on our part, not telling everyone that we were in the outfield. But yeah, really great spot back on the party bus. Vibes were an all-time high, and then get out, and our crew assembled in Section 7, and we had a heck of a time in the game as well, other than the result. But yeah, the weekend itself was incredible, and a thank you to all that made my 30th birthday super, super fantastic. A special shout out to the Finns and the Raffertys. Should we jump into game day? I know we get through the gates, the pearly gates of Wallace Wade Stadium.
Yeah,
if you hear your
sat in
cowbells
Section
and
7,
PA, and it's like, where are we? Are we at a high school game? What's going on here?
That was my first observation. So we sat in Section 7, like basically the 50-yard line behind Tech. And I'm not saying their stadium was awful, because it wasn't. I actually really enjoyed their stadium, and the in-game experience was awesome. Shout out to Rachel Demita, one of my first crushes from NBA 2K back in the day. But I am assuming that it's probably like a super peewee JV version of what Northwestern's going to go for. I think it holds like 36,000 people. They do a really good job. But the environment itself, it felt like a state championship, like you're walking into like a high school, like a big high school state championship kind of vibe. I would say it was probably at worst 50-50 Virginia Tech Duke. Like at absolute worst, it was probably closer to like 60-40, maybe 30-70. A lot of Tech people at this football game.
That is a huge range.
Yeah. What would you say? Like 50-50?
Airing out 20% like that. I think it was
what would you say?
65 Duke, 35 Tech.
Okay.
60-40.
A lot of Tech fans made the trip. And that was kind of my game day experience. Nighttime, it was cold. If you didn't have on a beer blanket, which I didn't have in the second half, it was pretty cold. So that was kind of my experience. Hot chocolate was not hot. Pretzels were still frozen.
I did sneak a cheeseburger. But yeah, I think the environment, generally speaking, is, subpar. When we talk about the ACC and ACC football programs, I think Duke is probably at the bottom as far as the football atmosphere. But I think a guy like Manny Diaz, a guy like Mike Elko, they're not going to ever finish their career at Duke. There's a lot more to aspire than that atmosphere on Saturday night, which sucks.
Yeah.
Which sucks because Duke is 8-3, but they probably will never, ever fill that stadium. It's just how it is. Duke is a basketball school. It's a small private institution. You don't really have that many kids from in-state going. And if folks from in-state are making the effort to go to Durham for a contest, it's probably inside the doors of Cameron Indoor and not Wallace Wade, even though Wallace Wade did hold a nice Rose Bowl, 70, 80 years ago. But the cheeseburger was pretty good. Sons of Stats. Give us the lowdown here.
So just to bridge the gap here, Tech did lose 28-31. And here are just some crazy stats for this. And it kind of just, I have this label of just like, what? So Virginia Tech won the turnover battle 4-1. Virginia Tech won the time of possession 38-21. We outrushed Duke by 3x. So we rushed for 190 yards. They rushed for 64. We outgained Duke 403 yards to 396. Pat, I saw you threw some in here too. Duke was 2 of 11 on third down. Their quarterback was 17 of 35. And everyone's like, great. How much did we win by? And we didn't. Virginia Tech was sacked 8 times and forced 0 sacks. Duke forced 14 tackles for loss. Virginia Tech only had 7. This is from David Cunningham. The last time the Hokies were sacked 8+ times in a game was January 2011. That is the Orange Bowl against Stanford.
So you're telling me that Tyrod and Pop Watson are pretty much on the same plane? Yeah, they got some stats in common.
They got a stat in common. And then the last time that an opponent had 14+ TFLs against Virginia Tech was September 2004 against NC State. So
tough loss.
We're about to get into offense and defense, but I'm not going to pound the table. I'm not super upset. I'm not like crestfallen over this loss. And the reason is like we have consistently been outcoached and outcultured and found ways to lose games where we do some things well, we do other things awful. And that is what this kind of was a culmination of. It was another super weird football game, super weird box score. Colin Schley starts, Pop Watson finishes. Bashal Tootin has 19 carries. We didn't even know he was going to play. But Duke's first half consisted of 3 interceptions, 2 3-and-outs, and a 4-and-out. And we still found a way to be losing 21-17 at halftime. And of course, Patrick, as we have done all year, we got absolutely destroyed in the third quarter. We are minus 37 on the year. And in this football game, we were outscored 10-0 in this third quarter. It's almost like a numbness that I have to this season. And it's unfortunate because it feels like such a wasted year. It truly does.
The theme here, and I know Rich Luttenberger put on his English cap and was throwing out themes today. Big plays versus losing plays. Where Duke they made big plays. They made plays when it mattered. They made plays early in the football game. It was really great for us to catch up, being down 14-0 and going up 17-14, but we're not in that position if we don't give up 2 massive plays to the same guy early in the contest. And unfortunately, they made the big plays. We made the plays that reflected on the scoreboard or did not reflect on the scoreboard, leaving a lot of points on the field, just making silly mistakes. But I think we'll start it off with the offense here. You mentioned Tootin, 19 carries. If you would have told me Tootin would get the ball 19 times, I probably would have said, oh, all right. Probably won the football game, scored a touchdown. But no, we did not see that. Colin Schley gets the start. I think a lot of people were excited to see Colin Schley start the game. He's an exciting player, but unfortunately, he's not Kyron Drones, he's not Logan Thomas, and he's not Gerard Evans. And when I say this, I mean, this is not a guy that you can just run 15 times a game straight up the gut. He's a gadget guy. He, is agile and athletic, but he's not going to be able to withstand some of these hits. He is more of a guy that you want to have thrown on the run. You saw that no look pass, like that The no-look sidearm pass to Ollie Jennings that he took in for a touchdown. It was a work of art. It was beautiful. It was one of the best plays we've seen all football season. And unfortunately, the way that we had Colin Schley running the football, it was like we were intentionally trying to get this guy killed. Like he got absolutely destroyed, and unfortunately, he had to hit the tent and leave the game. And I tip my cap to him in battling, but it just sucks that we lost him so early in the football game, where he is a good quarterback and a competent quarterback, as we saw at Syracuse.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for here is battering ram. Like he is absolutely not a guy that you can ask to run in between the tackles, upwards of 5 or 6 or 8 times. Where Kyron has that in his tool bag, and not to take a victory lap here, but at the beginning of the season, I said, like, when I was looking at how our carries were being doled out from the Vanderbilt game, like, there are not many quarterbacks in the country that can sustain running the ball 15, 20, 25 times. And, I'm even looking at the stat sheet right here for our offense. Pop Watson, who is all of 5'11", 190 pounds, was asked to run the ball 17 times against this Duke Blue Devils front, probably the best defensive line we've seen all year. And speaking of Pop Watson, I actually was really impressed by his rhythm, his internal clock. He is asked to step in a impossible situation. We probably didn't do a great job spending as much time on it as we could on the preview, but Duke's defensive line is fantastic. And Colby Crawford put this out. Pop Watson was 9 of 12 to the middle of the field, so basically in between the hashes, which has been a common call at our year, that we have not attacked the middle of the football field. His average depth of target was 11 yards down the football field. I was really impressed with watching him play, because I'll be completely honest, when he came in the football game, I know the locker room loves him. I know the team loves him. We haven't seen him a ton in situations like this, and I was like, man, this is a tough spot to come into. I was very impressed by his effort in that football game.
Yeah, giving us the lead, coming back, getting us that 17-14 lead with 7:55 in the second quarter. And, we had some stall out drives at pivotal points in the game, but I don't really feel like we ever felt we were out of the football game because of Pop being out there. You could tell there's definitely some physical disadvantages. But, as far as completing throws, I know he had a lot of throws dropped as well. But it was exciting to see, and you have to tip your cap to Pop. And he's a youngster out there, who was able to make plays. Really limited game experience. I know he took. Did he take a snap in Nashville? Maybe one snap in Nashville. I know he took a snap.
He took
victory formation, and then one in Syracuse that went for 6 from Malachi.
Yeah, he took. I don't think he's ever taken more than 2 snaps this season. And one thing I encourage you to watch is, and Coach Holmes pointed this out in the group chat, it's the first time we've seen a quarterback that snap, drop back, pitch, ball. Everything kind of looked like the clock has been off this year, and whether that's on the receivers running the routes or the quarterback's technique or whatever, I haven't seen a decisive snap, drop, throw, and you look at it and you're like, wow, that looks great. And Pop Watson, whether I don't know what it was, but it looked very good. And he was taking some hits too. I was shocked he was able to finish the football game. There were times I was kind of looking around in the second and third quarter. I was like, we might see Dobby Belfort in this game, because Pop Watson is taking some crazy hits in this game too. So again, I can't say enough positive things about what he was able to do when he came in this game.
Yeah, I know, some dancing around the pocket, some moves he was able to make and elude pressure. Sometimes he was not. I think a few times maybe he held onto the ball too long, should have gotten rid of the ball to avoid taking a sack. But I also just don't really find that our offensive game plan took into account that Duke was pinning their ears back. I mean, he was consistently under pressure, and our offensive line was getting completely blown up throughout the duration of the second half.
Offensive line was really, really poor this afternoon. And Manny Diaz, as soon as Pop goes in the game, he turns the heat up. Like, he's already a guy who likes to be aggressive, but he was extremely aggressive. And one of the things that really challenged us in this game was they were able to get away with, specifically, I was watching Daquan Felton. There was a long period of the game where they would put him in press man, and we just couldn't win. We couldn't get open. And they've watched film all year. They didn't listen to podcasts and shows and hear that Virginia Tech has this awesome wide receiver group who's super productive and is going to be awesome. Now that's what we all thought. But, if you're a team coming to play Virginia Tech in November or even late October, the proof is kind of in the pudding that Virginia Tech doesn't really have a wide receiver group that you need to adjust for and really kind of like focus in on. And I think Duke saw that, and especially that combined with being on a third string quarterback or second string quarterback, they said, hey, we're just going to attack that. We're going to attack the quarterback. And they did. And they did it in an incredibly effective manner. And there's nothing we could do about it.
Pop overall, 12-25, 146 yards, 1 pick. No touchdowns, running the football. And I know this incorporates sacks. So 17 carries, -4 yards,
Yeah.
but he did have a couple nice first down runs along of 15. There was also, offensively, I think we left a lot of points off the board where we had 3 possessions with a chance to either tie the game or take the lead in that final 8 minutes, but managed only 20 yards combined on those series. And I know you had some specifics from where we had 0 points.
Yeah, a couple of the opportunities that drove me crazy were we had 1st and 10 from the Duke 14 with 47 seconds left to end the half. That goes loss of 2, loss of 9 on a sack for a pass, and then loss of 13, fumble. You end up with 0 points. I got to tell you, man, like what drove me absolutely crazy about this is if you're in this situation, it's 1st and 10 from the Duke 14, 47 seconds left. I'm handing the ball off 3 times. And if they stop me, that's fine. I'm leaving with points. Points are an absolute premium. A third string quarterback in here at the game, and you're just trying to make something happen here. Like,
at the end of the half. At the end of the half, where we've struggled all year, the first, the last couple drives of the first half and the first couple drives of the second half, all year, that has been our Achilles heel.
Like, I don't understand it. And then what's also extremely frustrating about that is Duke then goes ahead and they throw an interception. We get the ball back with 7 seconds left at the Duke 43. And Pat, I remember I yelled down to you, and it wasn't the fact that we didn't decide to kick a field goal or we didn't decide to go for it. It was the fact that we hadn't made any type of decision. Our field goal team trots on the field, and then our coaches run onto the field and get them off. And then we trot our offense back out there, and we have these 2 plays to try to get some yards. It just leaves you thinking, what are we doing? Who's in charge?
Who are we?
Do we practice this? Mike McDaniel had a tweet that kind of summarizes what it's like to watch Virginia Tech football. He said, I watch a lot of college football. It completely consumes most of my fall Saturdays. Welcome to the club. It's the best club to be in. I watch a lot of really good, but mostly really bad football. It feels like most teams at the power conference level play a different sport than Virginia Tech. The Hokies are hate watch territory. There is a time, it seems like every single game, where you're like, what the bleep? What are we doing? What is happening? And it just looks so hard and so discombobulated, and like we are doing it for the first time ever. And I don't know if you felt that way, man, but it seems like so many times this year, I'm watching something unfold in front of my face, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody knows what's happening at all. It's like chaos.
Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better. Let's make our entire fan base just be so dumbfounded on the activities that are happening on the field week in and week out. It's truly remarkable. And I know every single week we see the the post-game win expectancy. Like, did we lose that bad chart? And every single time, it seems like Virginia Tech is actually higher than the opponent, which means that they should have beaten the opponent based on analytics. And unfortunately, again, it says Virginia Tech should have beaten Duke based on the analytics from the contest. And again, we did not. We lost another close game.
A couple of other situations where we didn't score. We started a drive on 1st and 10 on the Duke 42 on the second drive of the second half. That ended in an interception. So just to recap those 3 drives. 1st and 10 from the Duke 14 with 47 seconds left, no points. 1st and 10 of the Duke 42, no points. And then you had the ball with whatever we had it at before we decided not to kick the field goal with no points. And then lastly, maybe the cream of the crop, Pat, the last gasp that we totally didn't deserve to have. Like, we are in full blown, like, gather your belongings. It's time to leave. It's time to bounce. Game is now over. But no, Duke fumbles the ball with 1 minute and 44 seconds left at our 32-yard line. So Virginia Tech gets the ball with 3 timeouts. First of all, it's a total, like, perfect scoop and score football. 0 scoop, 0 score. But we fall on it, so we get the ball. And you're like, okay, here we go. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we can exercise some demons here. Nope. We go pass play. Nobody's open. Pop actually threw a great ball to Ollie Jennings that hit him in the hands. It would have been a tough catch, but so nothing there. Pass play, looking for a shot at the middle of the field. There was nothing there. And then another passing play where we get sacked. And then on 4th down, we dump it off to Tootin. Not really sure how you don't run the ball at least 1 time when you have 3 timeouts and Duke's entire team knows you're going to throw it and is probably going to blitz, and you're on a 3rd-string quarterback, and you have an offensive line who's gotten your quarterback sacked 100 times. By the way, Daquan Felton was not even on the field on this drive. So, again, like, we haven't even talked about the defense yet, but every single week, it's clock management, it's situational football, it's absolute, like, mind-numbing mistakes and mishaps and miscues every single week. Even in the games that we win, it's every week. You can hang your hat on something crazy and frustrating and make you throw a remote at your television is going to happen every week.
I can believe that we didn't pick up the scoop and score there. The game was over. The game was completely over, and it was gifted to us to be able to go out and let's execute on this massive mistake that Manny Diaz and Duke have just made. The way that ball was spinning, we have 2 guys kind of just run into each other and fall on it.
I'm shocked they didn't fall on it. I'm shocked Duke didn't fall on it.
That's true. It had, like, UVA 2018 written all over it for us to take advantage of. And I guess Duke's not UVA, so more power to Duke there. But really, really tough. Tootin, you have to tip your cap, hats off. Bashal Tootin did get to the 1,000-yard mark on the season. I didn't even know he was going to get there. We didn't know if he was going to play the remainder of the season. So
I'll be honest with you, Pat. Like, walking into Wallace Wade, that is really. I always want Tech to win, but that is the only other thing that I wanted. I was like, if Tootin plays, I want him to get 1,000 yards, and if that happens, I'm good, bro. I wanted to see him get it done. I'm so happy for him to get it done, and he did. So thrilled for that young man.
19 carries, 84 yards, had a 29-yard touchdown. He hits 1,000 this season. It's his 27th touchdown all time, which puts him at 9th on the all-time list, tied with the Ken Oxendine. So shout out to Tootin. Jeremiah Coney, 5 carries, 22 yards, a long of 11. Aiden Green was impressive. Had that reverse. I think we did have the reverse working again. It does seem that we have scored on a lot of those plays this year. Unfortunately, it always seems like we have to rely on one of those plays to work.
Yeah.
otherwise we're not scoring touchdowns, we're scoring field goals in the red zone. But having a guy like Aiden Green or Jalen Lane, who's made a lot of those plays in the past as well, Aiden Green did a great job getting in for 6 there. He was so far behind the line of scrimmage too. I know it was a 21-yard touchdown, but felt like a 45-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech has to be one of the best reverse teams in the United States. Pretty unbelievable. Pop Watson had 17 carries for -4 yards. Embarrassing stat that is 100% not his fault at all. So I'm not going to blame the young man for that. Here is something that's crazy. Ollie Jennings, 6 catches, 158. He has a 65-yard touchdown. He also leads Virginia Tech in touchdowns this year, receiving touchdowns this year, which is pretty crazy to think about. And
what a stat. What could have been?
That is exactly what I thought during the game, Pat. I love to see him ball out. I love to see him play well. And for whatever reason, as I'm watching him run down the field on one of his explosive plays, I literally in my head, I was just like, damn it. This is what we hoped to see game in and game out of this super talented wide receiver room. And for whatever reason, I am not pointing my finger at a specific wide receiver, at a quarterback, at anybody. For whatever reason, it is up to the coaching staff to put the guys on our roster in the best position to execute at the top of their abilities. And that has not happened this year. And that is almost why I'm so impressed with Bashal Tutin, because of his ability to overcome so much nonsense, internal, external, spiritual, whatever you may call it, to having a 1,000-yard season. But I think I'm not the only one who was in the stands when I saw Ollie Jennings streaking down the sideline. That just was God, what could have been for the Virginia Tech Hokies, man?
The one that got away. So he had 6 catches. He had 7 catches on the year up until that point. And now he's got a decently impressive stat sheet. 13 catches, 322 yards, 24.8 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns. He's the only receiver on the roster with 3 touchdowns. And he's only 158 yards off tying the lead for receiving yards on the season. He actually has more receiving yards than Felton on the year. It's mind-blowing. The whole wide receiver thing in 2024 is mind-blowing, and it's extremely disappointing. So I don't know what was going on with Ollie Jennings. I don't know if he was hurt all year. Maybe we might never find out what was going on with Ollie Jennings and why we did not put him in a position to succeed, or if he was not, 100%. But it just really sucks. It just feels wasted. Defense.
I want to get to the overarching points here. Do we want to buzz through the defense here? I have to I think we would be remiss to not do this. I have to tip my cap to Eli Penkel and take a bow, young man. I mean, 5 catches, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 catches, and 182 of those yards came in the first half. What a performance by that young man. Wow.
Yeah. I think Malik Murphy was not really anything special. We mentioned he completed less than 50% of his passes. It's the second game in a row that this defense has had a quarterback complete less than 50% of their passes and still beat us. 17 of 35 for 332, 3 touchdowns. Really, really got torched on big plays. Really tough day for the secondary. Long passes of 86, 77, 58, and 34. Every single time it seemed like someone was wide open, or they were just breaking tackles because we haven't been able to tackle ball carriers. That first touchdown to Pankel, 86 yards. APR was, I know we said we had 0 sacks. APR was this close to getting his hand on the football and swatting that to either force a fumble or create havoc there. But that was so freaking close. Another great night for APR. Might not show up on the stat sheet. He did make an impact, and he did have a tackle for loss or two, but really tough.
Couple of things on this. Number one, Malik Murphy, his double bird was epic. Like, if anybody has anything else to say about that, you're wrong. It was hilarious. It was just like,
not something you would expect from a Duke football player.
Not something you would expect from a Duke football player, but certainly something that I have to imagine is going to be, at the very minimum, the cover of his like fantasy football team 25 years from now. But really, really funny. And of course, Pat, it would not be a Virginia Tech game if there wasn't like a what happened to Virginia Tech that went viral in this game. And of course, that was it. It was Malik Murphy hitting us with the double bird as he throws 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and completes less than 50% of his passes and somehow still wins the game. Pretty unbelievable. Pretty unbelievable.
It's like, if you limit these long, big plays, you actually have a pretty solid defense, but unfortunately that's a part of the game. And I mean, Duke only had 9 first downs in the entire football game until the last 4 minutes of the football game. So like they really weren't moving the football at all, other than just breakdowns in coverage. And again, they were 2 of 11 on third down. Like, we had the ball pretty much the whole game, 38 minutes to their 21 minutes. So it's just the lack of consistency from the defense, again, giving up points in tough situations and never really being able to make a game-breaking play on the defensive side of the ball. Even just like the whole falling on the ball instead of just scoop and score, like that's kind of a summary of the defense this season. Oh, we'll fall on it. We'll make sure we get the ball, but like we're never going to make a play, right? Which sucks. Like Dorian Strong had 2 picks. That's awesome. Yeah. But, unfortunately,
it's crazy we just got to that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could add 3. He played his absolute tail off, and he's been great all year. I feel for so many of these kids, again, because it's such a talented team. Last phase, special teams. 2 minutes left before halftime. We botched downing a punt inside the 5-yard line. It bounced at the 8. It bounced 2 or 3 times inside the 5, and we can't down it, and it's a touchback. We kicked the ball out of bounds on a kickoff. And maybe the worst one, 4th down, ball's on the 41. There's 16 seconds left, and we're coming out of a timeout, and somehow we're in punt safe. Somehow we're in punt safe. We're not sending it after the punt. We're not trying to block the punt. We are in punt safe. It is stunning. It's just it's stunning. Do you have any other notes on special teams?
No, I just think it's
before we go. We need to go big picture here. This is a tweet from David Hale. Virginia Tech is 1-12 in one possession games under Brent Pry, including 0-5 this year. It's a .77 win percentage, which is the worst in the FBS in the past 3 seasons. And what I think it comes down to is I had a conversation with a friend, not going to name him or her. It was him. And I think it's a great point. Pat, when we grew up, I think a large portion of the country always idolized going to the Northeast private school. Georgetown, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, these Northeast private schools. It was always kind of like what the country figured, like, oh, my kid's going here. Oh, he wants to go here and study. What the SEC has been able to do in the last 5 or 8 years is they have almost flipped it on its head to where every kid in America wants to go to college and be in Neyland Stadium or be in Jordan Hare, any one of these SEC schools. And the ACC has it too. They got Tallahassee, they got Clemson, and Virginia Tech has one of those environments. But here is the tough reality. Since 2011, Virginia Tech is 88-76, which is good for a 53% winning percentage. And I am never the type of person who wants to get up here and say, I mean, it's not fun. I don't want to get up here and say, so-and-so sucks. So-and-so has to lose their job. So-and-so needs to get out of here. So-and-so wants us to be awful. There's not a coach on staff, a staffer in the administration, player, a GA, anybody that's affiliated with the team that wants the team to be poor. But the thing is, it is far too important to the future of our school, past just football and past just Saturdays, for this to be that it's playing out. It is, I mean, you've been a fan longer than I have, Pat. It is as bad right now, the dialogue and the results and the way it's kind of unfolded. It is as bad as it's ever been in my lifetime. I have never felt this down and just kind of lost on the future of this program and, quite frankly, the athletic department. Like, in the next 10 days, here's the next 10 days for Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's going to play UVA in front of maybe a half-full stadium. Our basketball program that's completely gutted plays Michigan tonight and another quality team after that. I don't know what positive you can point to, at least regarding a revenue sport, unless you want to talk about women's soccer or women's basketball. Like, I'm not trying to say it's all awful, but the things that matter and the things that's going to propel our school forward, it's awful. And it's been awful for a decade plus.
It's really, really hard to be excited about anything right now. And that's really, really hard to say, considering that's usually who we are. That's what we love to do. We are always looking forward and looking forward to what's next. And, you know, have always thought at Sons of Saturday that our brightest days are ahead of us. Monday, November 25th, 2024. I mean, this is the lowest it's been. I think this is the lowest it's been since we started this podcast in 2019. You know, and unfortunately, that's really a bummer because, you know, we had a coach fired, you know, in between then and now. You know, we went 3-8 in between then and now. We lost to Virginia for the first time in, you know, 2 decades between then and now. And I've never seen anything like this. Like, this season, the resources that were put into football and neglecting basketball, and seeing basketball suffer last week, losing to Jacksonville at home. Being this apathetic about the Virginia game. I'm going to go on record right now. I don't think I'm going. I don't think I'm going to the Virginia game. I've been on a pendulum swinging back and forth for the last week or so. I'm probably going to make the decision on the day of. I have not missed the UVA game since 2011. I have been to every single game other than the COVID year, because I make that a fixture in my schedule every single football season. Unfortunately, this has just been so awful to comprehend as a fan. And I watched Fever Pitch last night. There's a famous quote in Fever Pitch. The guy's obsessed with the Red Sox. They haven't won shit in 86 years. And the guy's like, Ben, you love the Sox, but have the Sox ever loved you back? I need some loving from you, Virginia Tech. I'm sorry. This was so bad, this whole campaign. Complimentary with a forecast that just looks awful. And again, you can tell me to fan harder and withstand the cold. I just don't know if I'm up for it this time. You know, I'm 30. I'm old now. So we
give yourself more credit than that. For me, I'll let the record show. I absolutely am not going. I have gone to every home game this season. I've traveled to Nashville. I've traveled to Durham. And again, I don't really like the dialogue of like, we deserve this or we deserve that. I'm not big on that dialogue, but here's what I am big on. Virginia Tech does all of the things that so many other schools wish they had. A Duke would kill for a fan base that shows up the way that Virginia Tech shows up. They would kill for the ticket sales. They would kill for the fact that ESPN is actually begging you to be good and to be relevant so that they can cover your team and your environment and your culture and your game day. Like, they all want to lean in on all of that. And here we are in 2024, and there are so many people. It's not just Mayhul. It is him, but it's not just him. So many people who have reached into their pocket to put us in a position to have the players that we have, and to fall this flat and look this disorganized, on top of the fact that other sports were sacrificed to get to this point. It really has nothing to do with being personal. It just has to do with, Ed did a great job talking about this in the podcast today. Virginia Tech was a software company who had multiple softwares, and we stopped developing all of them and put everybody on one project. And if that one project falls flat, this is where you end up. And you don't want to be here. And that is where we are. And it's completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable. And for a lot of people, Pat, winning this UVA game has been good enough. It's been, well, just win on Thanksgiving. Just win on Thanksgiving. And, there's a part of people that will say, well, you just don't get it, or you didn't grow up a Tech fan or anything else. And maybe that's true, but that's not good enough for me. Like, beating UVA, you have said it before, is table stakes. That is absolutely table stakes. And the UVA team we're playing, it's for bowl eligibility between two teams. The only difference, Patrick, is one of these teams had an over-under of 8.5 from Vegas this year, and the other team had an over-under of 4.5. Guess what? Both teams are 5-6, and they're both playing for a bowl game. And I just want people to understand, no disrespect, it's pretty embarrassing when we put that much onus and fired upliness and well, as long as we win on this weekend, I'm sorry, if that's the standard, I'm out. And I don't believe that's the standard, but it is for some people, and it simply cannot be.
And this is the 6th time since 2014 where we've had to win this last game of the football season to make a bowl game. Other than 2018, where we had the Marshall game, that was a makeup, and they did us a huge favor. I saw Treadmill Horse put this out there. Like, it's kind of a sign of the times. Like, here we go again. 6 times in a decade, we have to beat a rival to make a bowl game. Meanwhile, this team, as you said, 8.5 over under. This team was or will be favored in 10 out of 12 of those football games. So you're saying you're the favorite in 10 out of 12 and you're 5-6? It's just a colossal failure by this football staff and by this football program. And, here's the thing. We still haven't beaten anyone. Since the time Coach Pride put on that headset against Old Dominion in 2022, we have not beaten a single good football team. And guess what? If Georgia Tech had a healthy Haynes King on homecoming, Georgia Tech beats Virginia Tech. And we are fighting for our 5th win in Blacksburg this weekend, not our 6th win for a bowl. So, unfortunately, and I saw this from Justin Cates in his Cheers and Jeers segment, this was the theme of the season: miserable clock management, defensive breakdowns left and right, a seemingly stream of consciousness approach to calling timeouts, and the worst halftime adjustments in the entire country. have been the hallmarks of the Brent Pry era so far, and it just seems very over. And here we are again with a post-Thanksgiving mid-off. We're back in Lane Stadium for the first time since 2018, and I was really excited for this game. I really was. We had the tragedy happen 2 years ago. We had COVID happen 4 years ago. We haven't played this game since 2018, which was probably our most historic win over UVA at home in the last couple decades. Meanwhile, the Citadel goes out and averages 5.2 yards per carry 2 days ago on Clemson. Wait a second. The Citadel ran for 5.2 per carry, and our running backs got 4 carries all day. It's just an absolute embarrassment on what has happened. And I think, we'll see it. I really hope we see it.
Yeah. And again, it's never personal. And obviously people are probably listening to this like, man, they're never like this, because we are positrons. And I really like a lot of people who are in Merriman. I really like a lot of people who are coaching this football team, because they do the hard stuff really, really well. I was talking with Coach Holmes about this. Like, the hard stuff is talking to the fan base, is establishing a culture, talking to high school coaches, talking to parents, getting people excited. The easy stuff is football. The easy stuff is the X's and O's, the stuff you have been doing for years. And we can't do the easy stuff. We are consistently outcoached by teams equal to us or above us, and in some cases below us. And that is the damnedest thing. If we are losing games because of talent, which I believe was the case from probably 2018 to 2022, that's completely understandable. We are now losing games on one of these 2 points: culture or coaching. And it happens over and over and over and over again. You can make the argument Virginia Tech left 11 points on the football field this past Saturday. And it's not like, okay, that's a one-off. That's the first time it's happened this year, or the first time it's happened this month. No, it's just the time that it happened this week. And that's where we are, man. And it is such a tough pill to swallow, but man, it is the damn truth.
So fed up with it. And I mean, we have been getting those season ticket calls, like the investment guide, the emails, the calls. Like, I'm not doing this in the whole renew all period unless we have some form of confidence that it's going to be better next year. I am considering not renewing my season tickets. I'm not saying I'm not renewing my season tickets. I'm very much saying that I'm considering not hitting the renew button. I mean, and I think I speak for probably 85% of our fan base there. But there are
we would qualify you as a super fan. And if you're saying that, I can't imagine what some other people are saying.
Yeah, I think I've missed 5 home games in the last 10 years, something crazy. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot of people that hold jobs in Blacksburg, and if they still have their jobs next year, my job as being a fan, probably I might quit my job as a fan. I might hit the fan portal in my next 30 years here.
I have. People are gonna screen grab that. I have my co-title here as needing VPI PTO, and that's very much what it feels like. You know that song by it's not Lady Gaga. It might be Lady Gaga. And Charlie Puth, where it's like, just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. We've been begging for a reason for 3 years, and we are still waiting on the reason.
You're gonna have to send me that song. I don't know what you're talking about there.
I can't believe you don't know that song. Let's do letters from the lunch pail, because we'll have all of January, February, March, and April to talk about this. Seth Epperson, he says, good to meet you at the game. Seth, it was great to meet you. I loved running into you. I was running into you in the bathroom, probably in between head shakes. BRM, any idea as to why other teams always appear to play up and exceed expectations against us? haven't seen a coherent game plan or in-game adjustments when this happens. Seems like the coaches are always shocked and don't adopt or adapt. Completely agree. The way we lose is stunning every single time we do it. However, I have seen a few things that are constant. Number one, we are consistently outcoached. Consistently. I point you to our third quarter scoring. I point you to our consistent L's to inferior or equal teams. I point you to times where teams have exposed us for long periods of time, whether it be the Marshall punt block on special teams, the multiple blocked kicks over the course of this year, Rutgers pass option plays, Clemson's ability to completely stifle us on offense. And then obviously, I had a problem with this stat in the beginning. And then I think I was just like, you know what? Enough is enough. You can't go 1-13 in one-score games. And dare I say, I don't know how you come back from 1 of 13 in one-score games. I'm really not trying to be hyperbolic here. Like, that is a unbelievable stat. An unbelievable stat. You would have to win your next 12 to be 500 in one-score games.
Math.
So, yeah, math. It's crazy. So we're not in good shape. That's the other thing. Physically, in 2023, we watched us play ourselves into shape. I think that's why we got hot over the course of last year. Dwight Vick's been talking about this all year. And this season, we have been blown off the football all year. We're getting injured left and right. So I don't think we're a football team that's been in shape. That's been a concern of mine. I've talked about it quite a bit over the last couple of years. But I don't think we're in good shape. So just to recap, like, we consistently lose to teams who are worse than us or on equal playing field. We consistently lose one-score games. We're outcoached, and we're not in good shape. So, yeah. Anything on that, Pat? Should we move to the next one?
Johnny Noodle Legs.
What a name.
From slow starts to untimely penalties, clock management to in-game adjustments, completely disappearing in the third quarter to being 1-12, 0-5. The number, I see 12 somewhere, I see 13 somewhere. We have a hell ton, either a dozen or a baker's dozen of losses in one-score games, and the only win was Liberty. Yeah. Like, that Liberty game, I got to be honest, we shouldn't even have that one on here. We beat Liberty. Like, it's not like we went out there and beat North Carolina or even Virginia. We beat Liberty.
Pat, that's a good point. You could just say we're 0-13 in Power 5 games, in one-score games. You could just say that. Or whatever it is.
Yeah. Sorry to get derailed. We are 0-5 this year in one-score games. How can we right the ship? Do new coordinators fix these problems? Is it too much to overcome? I think Billy kind of just answered that. It is too much to overcome. Or how do you come back from it?
I'm not saying anything that other people won't agree with. If there aren't staff changes, there will be dozens of people that don't renew their season tickets based on just that alone. And dozens is probably a drastic undersell. If there's like no staff change, there will be, I guess, hundreds of people who may not renew their season tickets. But like, just one thing that I want everybody to keep in mind, like, we just extended every single one of our coordinators last year. And the second question is, we just did an entire podcast about like the uncertainty, negativity, and concerns we have from the athletic department down. And if I'm an up and coming or established offensive or defensive coordinator, I'm just asking the question, why would you be interested in coming here? If we're not sure who the athletic director might or might not be, or who the head coach might or might not be 300 days from now, I don't really know what the compelling sell is to. And again, it's going to cost a ton of money because we just re-upped everybody. And again, I always feel like I have to say it. I never want to see anyone get fired, but it's also a business. And this business is in the gutter right now. It is absolutely in the gutter. So are these lights. Doing some flickering.
So I don't know what you're looking at. December 1st. It's a week from yesterday. You know what sucks about this 8 p.m. kickoff? Is that we all want to know. Here's the thing. Here's the lesson in PR. The longer we wait on these decisions, the more restless and angry and vitriol and chaos is going to happen. So I would want to know about December 1st being Judgment Day on what is going to happen as far as the future of this football program, as far as the future of this athletic department. Might have to wait till Monday, since it is a late game, and who knows how those things shake out on Sunday. But I really want to see Virginia Tech make the right decisions here, at least just from a PR perspective too. Remember when Witt came on? The whole extending Fuente thing after I think it was after 2020 when he was like, "Hey, we need to fire Fu, but it's COVID and we can't do this, and there's this revenue shortfall, the ACC, and the buyout's too big," and how just it was the biggest PR nightmare probably of the last 5 years out of the Virginia Tech athletic department. Let's not have anything like that happen again.
It's really interesting because what I really think people need is, at a minimum, somebody to just talk about it. Like, just say, hey, here's what happened. We recognized what happened is not good enough, and here's what we believe will fix it. Because right now, what's happening is it's being left to everybody to infer and give their opinion and draw their conclusion. And it's crazy that you have to hesitate with this, but that has to be worse than what it would be like if we called some sort of press conference. I always say this at work. I'm not a big meet just for the sake of meeting kind of guy, but I do think that somebody needs to stand up and somebody needs to say something, because the status quo, the whole PR of just receiving your investment guide, I understand that these are like scheduled out like weeks before. It is crazy that they showed up this week. Of every bleeping weekend for this mail to arrive in people's mailboxes, for it to be this weekend is actually crazy.
I don't know what's worse, the scheduling of that or the scheduling of the Coach Pry 8 a.m. on Monday every single week, 1-0, beat insert opposition here.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like,
it's tough.
I don't know who is consulting these decisions. I really don't. But you're so right. We have to hear from someone to let us know that we are serious about this.
Yeah.
Because right now,
because it doesn't feel that way.
Pat, Billy Ray, we're running around with our hair on fire. That's what's happening. That is what's happening right now. And if we're doing it, I think a lot of people are doing it too, and probably have been doing it long before we have. So please show us something, beyond the Virginia game. Again, whether we win the Virginia game or lose the Virginia game, I think we've stated our piece here. Can't take it anymore. Stop it. Stop the bleeding. Make something happen on Sunday or Monday so we can go into this offseason not hitting that renewal button.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've said for the last 4 weeks, not including this past weekend at Duke, because I didn't feel this way, but like Clemson weekend, Boston College weekend, here are the weekends that I can think of that qualified this way. Boston College weekend this year, Boston College weekend last year, Pittsburgh weekend last year, Clemson weekend this year. I've said Virginia Tech is desperate to win a football game. Like, they have to win. If they don't win, people are going to freak out. We are past that point. It's not like, okay, we have to win the Commonwealth Club, because then people will calm down a little bit and will buy us some time. We're past that point. It is now, but I think the overwhelming point is a win on Saturday really doesn't change anything for me. And it might for some people, and I'm not saying that's right and I'm not saying that's wrong. A win on Saturday does not fix anything. This is an epic failure of a football season. It is going to be a disastrous, I hope I'm wrong, but I mean, every finger points to this basketball season being very difficult to endure. And that's not at the hands of Mike Young. It's at the hands of we went all in on football, which I'm perfectly fine with, and which you should probably do maybe a little bit more intelligently, or maybe a little bit more, have a little bit more of a plan for it. But when you fall on your face like this, it's bad. And you cannot just run it back. You can't. There has to be something. So, Xavier McKinney fan account. What a hilarious Twitter name. Is there a sadder rivalry week matchup than the Hokies and Who's this coming Saturday? Given the talent this state has, it's unacceptable for both, especially Virginia Tech, to be this pathetic. Completely agree with you. I do want to remind you that Virginia Tech severely underachieved in their Vegas over-under, and Virginia honestly overachieved and has a chance to. I'm really interested. We're going to talk about this in the preview. I'm really interested to see how much Virginia Tech cares to show up in this football game. I think Virginia is a bad football team who probably is playing for a whole lot also on Saturday. This whole transfer portal thing, it's a little different. I think it's going to mean a lot to both teams, but I think I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm at a loss for words, Pat, but I'm at a point where both of these teams have really not had anything to hang their hat on. And this game means nothing unless to somebody who isn't a fan of either team, unless you're betting on it or it's the only local listing that you have. This game is completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. Doesn't mean anything to anybody that isn't a fan of these two teams. That isn't a fan of these two teams. That's a fact. There's not anyone in Huntsville, Alabama who cares about this game.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Washington.
Yeah, I know. Let's
I know.
Let's make that clear. You're gonna get clipped. Yeah. You're gonna get clipped. You're gonna get crushed. Jersey guy, doesn't hate UVA. Blah blah blah. But
that's a fact, though. The rivalry has meant nothing for people outside of the state of Virginia for quite some time now, and that's a shame. That is a complete shame.
Yep. That's where we are. Tough hour plus with you guys, but hopefully you enjoyed. Shout outs. You got any shout outs? I want to give some props to a lot of folks who came up to us at the game on Saturday. I appreciate you guys as always. It's always so much fun. For you guys to ride with us here on the journey to hopefully more success, to quote DJ Khaled.
DJ Khaled?
Yeah, ride with me.
Khaled. DJ Khaled.
Whatever. DJ Khaled. Tough pod. But excited. Shoot, I don't know what I'm excited for. That sucks. Yeah. I'm gonna try to buy in. I'm really gonna try to buy in. A hate week. It is hate week. I
hate this season.
Yeah. That's it.
Happy birthday, buddy. That's my shout out.
We'll previewing UVA here later this week. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, comment just a smiley face emoji because we need it.
Yeah, need some vibes.
Comment a smiley face in the YouTube comments.
Go Hokies.